I'm author Mark Muncy.
And I'm author Erika Lance.
And this is Eerie Travels. Greetings, travelers.
Okay. Why did you do it spooky like that?
Because we're talking about something spooky, because it's after the 4th of July, which basically means it's almost August, which basically means it's Halloween.
Well, I know it's Halloween by one defining moment in time. Would you like to know what that is?
What is that?
Is Starbucks serving pumpkin spice lattes?
Oh, I always go by when Home Depot gets the giant skeletons, which they some have. So.
I'm just telling you, Mark, as you ascend in this direction, I think we should buy about 10 of them and put them throughout the forests.
You guys got to talk Ben into giving me one too. I've been trying to get him to buy me a Home Depot skeleton for like 2 years now.
They're hard to get. They usually only get like 2 or 3 per store, and they disappear quick. And
well, you'd think they would be easier to get if you have like the money to buy them for your partner who has only asked for one thing ever. It's not true. I'm fully lying. I asked for.
I was going to say I know that is an inaccurate statement, Kelly.
I'm spoiled.
8-foot werewolf, their giant dragon. Home Depot, man, they have upped their game. So
it's true. There is one that I know of in Florida that's right along Nursery Avenue. I'm just throwing this out there because they've tied it to a tree, because the skeleton we're talking about, I think, is 20 feet tall, correct?
Yeah, they're 12 feet tall.
No.
Oh, no, you're right. Some of them are 20. Yeah.
Yeah, no, they're 20 feet tall. Yeah. So there's a 20-foot tall one on this road. You can drive past it, and they decorate it for every holiday.
Yeah.
Because you're not gonna put that in the garage or something.
There was one on downtown St. Pete that had a pride flag for the Pride Festival. I was pretty pleased with that when we drove by. That was funny.
I love that. Okay, well, Callie, you're gonna have to throw a link in the list so people can at least see what these delightful.
Well, there's the one lady who has the werewolf, and she's actually battling her HOA because they're demanding her to take it down. And so that one, I'm waiting to see how that one turns out. So that one was interesting as well.
She's fighting the good fight out in these streets.
Heck yeah, somebody's got to do it. So I
dislike HOAs.
I'm going to do it quick for those who want to watch for Halloween shopping. I'm going to do a shout out to a friend of the podcast. She does the YouTube channel Chris the Girl. We'll put her link in the notes. She does called Spooky Shopping every year, and she calls it Code Orange when stuff is spotted in stores. And I know we follow her pretty religiously. So
because she's amazing.
Oh yeah, and she just posted all about At Home and Joann's Fabrics got all their Halloween stuff in. So
see, it is pumpkin spice lattes. Now I need to look real quick to see if Starbucks is selling them.
For unrelated reasons, I need to leave immediately. I don't know. It's crazy. My dog's sick. He doesn't have enough Halloween decorations.
He ate a Grimace shake. Is that what it was? So.
Oh God, no! That would mean he would be murdered brutally by Grimace, known McDonald's cryptid.
Oh, we've hit a whole low.
Oh man! All right. Enough,
okay. I'm just saying. Unfortunately, it appears that no, we are not in pumpkin spice land yet.
All right.
We are close to pumpkin spice, but not there.
We'll
it's not officially
pumpkin.
Fall.
We'll call it Code Pumpkin when it's time. So
Code Pumpkin, you will know because our amazing producer will not be present for any of the podcast recordings. Oh, we should share this. You can't see it yet, but we're going to be at the Smoky Mountain Bigfoot Festival.
Yes.
Which is on Saturday, July 22nd at the Bigfoot conference. I should throw the link actually, which I will, so Callie can include it. And it is basically 17 days away. And you can get tickets and come out and see us. And it's in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. And we have a new Eerie Travels swag. So with us at that particular conference should be our pins, our new travel mugs, which have lids and stuff. You can put hot and cold in them. They're the perfect size to take with you on your travels. T-shirts and stickers. And we have a super secret patch surprise, which will be at the Smoky Mountain Bigfoot Festival. So if you come find us at one of our events, we are presently working on some website issues. So you may or may not be able to find us there, but I'm going to put the link to the event. Callie will include it in the show notes. Come out and see us. We would love to see you there.
Love it.
So
Love it. We're excited to see y'all there.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about one of my favorite book slash. Oh, wait, actually, you know what? We have a little bit of breaking news that goes with our thing today. So how about some breaking news? So our breaking news is this: Haunted House Chronicles. They only lasted a month. This is from our friends at Paranormality Magazine. If you go to purchase anything from them, use the code TRAVELS and you will get a 10% discount, and you will get great articles like this one, which you have to be receive the digital or physical editions of this magazine. But this one is, for one couple, the dream of owning a historic family home turned into a nightmare they would never forget. What was supposed to be a new, exciting chapter in their lives, they soon found themselves trapped in a house plagued by eerie occurrences, from ghostly footsteps to chilling whispers. Their brief stay of just, drumroll please, 36 days.
Okay, a little over a month.
Turned into a harrowing ordeal that they could hardly endure. In the mysterious beginnings, this is going to end up with a dun. At the tender age of 21, newlyweds embarked on a seemingly incredible opportunity to purchase a house deeply rooted in their husband's family history.
Ooh,
and I'm going to leave it at that. You have to read the article.
That's it's amazing article, and as always, gang, definitely pick up Paranormality Mag. They are incredible. They do a beautiful magazine. The physical edition and the digital comes out pretty well too. So.
Yes. No, I agree. I concur. Which, speaking of creepy houses,
yes,
we are talking about one of my favorite recent shows, books, and I don't know how I feel about the movie, but it is.
Well, there were two movies, so one's really good and one we best left unsaid. But we're going to talk about it. So, and that is Shirley Jackson's The Haunting of Hill House.
Yes. Dun.
Yes. My favorite quote, Shirley Jackson, she was like, she's going to write a ghost story, right? She's like, and she's going to do it about 19th century psychic researchers and for the Society for Psychic Research. And she looked into actual psychic research and saw that the reports were really dry and that, that it really wasn't the story. And so she was like, that these people were misguided and that they were looking the wrong way and stuff like that. So she launched into her own research, and supposedly she found this picture in a magazine of a California house that she thought looked pretty haunted just from looking at it. And she asked her mother, who still lived in California, to help identify this house. And according to Jackson, her mother says it was their own great-great-grandfather was an architect, and he had designed that house somewhere near San Francisco. And so she also starts reading ghost story after ghost story after ghost story, because she says no one can get into a novel about a haunted house without hitting the subject of reality head on. Either I have to believe in ghosts, which I do, or I would have to write another kind of novel altogether.
Which is interesting considering the debate around the lead character of that book.
Yes.
So now I will say my favorite version of this, The Haunting of Hill House, is the Netflix series that they did.
Okay. I can't argue it was well done, but it's so far from the book that
It is, but it's not at the same time.
yeah. There's enough. So for those who don't know, I'm going to do a little bit of the book, and then we're going to go to the 1963 movie.
Okay.
And then we will do a quick brief, the briefer the better, of the 1999 remake. And then we will go crazy on the Netflix.
Yes. So go ahead, start with the book. When did the book come out?
All right. So the book itself comes out in 1959 by the great Shirley Jackson. It is considered by many, including myself, including Ms. Erika here, to be one of the greatest ghost stories ever published, let alone the 20th century.
Yes.
There's a play, there's a couple feature films, and of course the Netflix series. And it won, it didn't win the National Book Award that year, which is interesting. It was like runner up. But so the story goes, 4 characters. Dr. John Montague, who is an investigator of the supernatural, and he reaches out to some people all over to be his assistants as he is renting the famous Hill House, a mansion somewhere between many hills. It's never really said where. And it reaches out to people who've had psychic experiences. And so he reaches out to Eleanor Vance, a very shy woman, and she's caring for a disabled mother, and she hates it. She just hates her life. And so she's looking at this as an excuse to get away.
Yes.
Then she reaches out for this other woman named Theodora, no last name, but she is an artist and apparently a psychic. And then the last person who joins is Luke Sanderson, who is the young heir of Hill House. His aunt owns Hill House, and he is hoping to inherit it. So he's just there to kind of watch the house and just be part of things. And they are going to rent it for the whole summer. And they also send it out to other people, but the only people who show up are Eleanor, Theodora, and there's 2 people who caretake the property, the Dudley family, and they stay near the house. They live near the house, but they won't go there at night. They refuse.
Yes.
And now Montague begins explaining the history. And of course, we have this amazing Hill House has stood for 90 years and will probably stand for 90 more. Darkness haunts the halls of Hill House. And I could almost quote the novel word for word because I love it. And it's incredible. You will fall into this world, and they start to experience strange events, noises, ghosts, writing on the walls, other strange events. And what's the thing is, Eleanor is seeing most of it. The others are kind of knocking it off as, oh, it's her imagination, or it's our imagination.
House. Yeah.
But Theodora, who is a psychic, is also saying, she's not right. So I'm picking up on this, that she's not right. And now later on in the novel, Mrs. Montague.
I do want to say one part of the novel too, is the way she wrote it. Nell does not seem very stable from the very beginning of the novel. So you immediately call into question everything that she's purportedly experiencing, because she seems from the very beginning, with her background in the situation with her mother and stuff like that, to not be in a good place mentally.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying mentally ill. That's not the case at all. She just doesn't seem to be in, like, her emotions are in overdrive on many, many things and who she is.
Right. And the the stuff is very vague.
Yeah.
It's very, did we see this? Did this happen? And a little bit later, Theodora actually sees something that shakes her to her core. And she even tells Eleanor to run, at that point. And at some point, Mrs. Montague shows up. And she's also got her little assistant. I can't remember his name. I think it was Arthur. And they show up to help investigate. And they decide to do seances and spirit writing. And what's funny is they don't see anything. They're the believers.
Yeah.
And they're not getting any of it. Right. But what's happened is some of the spirit writing they tried to do seemed to actually be talking to Eleanor, which is very cool. And we start learning about Eleanor had some childhood incidents with like a poltergeist and stuff like that. It's very, very cool. And the book is such a slow burn, but it keeps you it is a masterclass in suspense. But Shirley Jackson is the master of suspense, right? It's incredible. It's
absolutely. And I highly recommend listening to the audiobook, because the audiobook and the person who did the audiobook did such a tremendous job, because as much as it's not like Freddy Krueger kind of action, sort of thing, it is very like, you find yourself taking a pause sometimes to go back and go, wait, what did she say she heard or saw at the time? Because then she moves forward to try to explain it to the people she's encountering. So it's very interesting how she also communicates the perceptions versus what she says she saw in the book.
Yeah. And it is a page turner, and it's definitely a must read come Halloween season for me. I think I might actually start reading it again during the move, just because I do feel like I need a refresher. Because what happened is so it becomes a hit. It's Shirley Jackson, of course it's going to become a hit. So by 1963, just a few years later.
So we're going to say that we've not given away the ending to the book, and the ending is not given away in the movies that we're going to talk about. So
we're not going to spoil this for anybody, because honestly, it is an old book. It is an old movie. And even the TV series is now a couple years old, but we're not going to spoil any of it, because this is easy enough to talk about without spoilers. It's just ghosts, right?
I am going to say, though, I do have a hot take about it. I have a theory. Yeah, it's a fun theory. Maybe we could get into it after the break.
Okay. All right, we'll get there.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the first movie first before the break.
Yeah, we're going to do the first movie first, and then you can give us your hot take.
All right. So 1963.
Yes.
All right. And this is made not in America, but in England.
And it is actually called The Haunting.
The Haunting. They did not do The Haunting of Hill House. The Haunting. And it is produced by the great Robert Wise, who would later go on to do one of my all-time favorite movies besides this one, Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. But he also did The Sound of Music. For
That's Star Trek 3.
No, 2.
Is it 2 or
3?
3?
Is Search for Spock.
Okay.
Erika loses 12 nerd points right there.
I didn't. Well, I have many
from House Erika.
It is Star Trek 2. Oh my gosh, my brain was not working.
It's okay. One time, Mark Muncy himself at a convention told somebody that they had a very nice Doctor Strange costume and they were fucking Ra's al Ghul, and I will never let him live that down. So it's okay.
I lost 10 points to House Nerd Muncy there. So
how did I lose 20 points and you lost 10? That's bullshit.
The most famous Star Trek movie of all.
That is a recent movie that you just watched.
Yeah, but you should fucking know Ra's.
The Ra's al Ghul and Doctor Strange was even before the Doctor Strange movie came out. Thank you.
Okay, but you should have known it was Ra's. Come on.
Right. They wear a lot of the same cloaks. All right, but anyway, back to this. So it stars Julie Harris, Claire Bloom, Richard Johnson, and Russ Tamblyn. And Julie Harris is playing Eleanor. Richard Johnson is Dr. Markway. Claire Bloom plays Theodora, and there's even some hints that Theodora might be a lesbian character, which was hinted at in the books. It was hinted at in the film. They actually filmed some scenes that cemented it, but they were cut before it was released because this was 1963. We didn't talk about lesbians back then. So
that's actually part of what I'm going to talk about.
Yeah. But anyway, they do paranormal investigation of Hill House, and this is almost very, very much a direct adaptation. But they also realize that this is much more about the mental health of Eleanor. And so they focus on her. And it's incredible. I don't want to spoil anything about this movie, but some of the effects in this movie rank it up there as one of my all-time favorite movies of all time. It is one of the spookiest movies you'll ever watch. And
I will say this though, so fair warning to the viewers, this movie did not get very good ratings though. And I'm not saying that means anything necessarily, because The Princess Bride got horrible ratings when it was released because they had no idea how to market it. But and you can find this on YouTube. You can also find it on Prime. You can purchase it for a whopping $3 on Prime. So if you did one of those, ship yourselves something and saved up some digital points, you could potentially just purchase this movie. So 1963. So I'm going to ask you at the end what your favorites are, since I already gave away my favorites. But we'll take a quick break and we'll be right back to go into that movie that should probably not be discussed and other things. Okay, we'll be right back.
Erie, Appalachia. Gear up for a frightful jaunt into the darkest reaches of the ancient Appalachians. Folks deep within the Appalachian hollers lean close to the campfire to share stories of the inexplicable with hushed awe. Monsters rumbling in the hills, strange lights darting through the pitch black night sky, horrible occurrences almost ineffable in their bizarre tragedy. Tall tales, you might say. Tell that to the Flatwoods monster in Braxton County, West Virginia, or the Goat Man of Louisville. Look into his humanoid eyes and let him know you don't believe. And what of those apparitions in Mammoth Cave's Corpse Rock, or the Satan spawn known as the Jersey Devil? How do you respond when confronted by these mysteries? From the metaphysical energy that swirls near Serpent Mound in Ohio to Point Pleasant's Mothman legacy, Mark Muncy and Carrie Schultz explore the dark history lurking in the shadows of Appalachia. Read by Mark Muncy, author and experts on strange folklore with appearances on shows such as Ancient Aliens, The Curse of Robert the Doll, and many, many more.
Greetings, mortals and others. I'm Dick Terhune, the voice from hell. I work with haunted attractions all over the US, Canada, and Europe to increase audiences and enhance their experience with highly effective commercials, narrations, animatronic character voices, whatever your dark heart desires. Let me help you do more, scare more, profit more. Find out more at Voice from Hell on Facebook and at voicefromhell.com.
Okay, Callie, do you want to start us off here?
Absolutely, I can do that. So I actually wrote a paper in college in my gender and science fiction class on how you could do a queer reading of The Haunting of Hill House. And it was very much centered around like Theodora being like the foil to Eleanor, and the implication of like her freeness as a person, and like this like idea that like she is confident and in touch with her spirituality, whereas Eleanor is like very repressed and in this situation where she is very much having to like hide the experiences that she has, and you know, isn't very like feeling trustworthy. But like there are so many scenes where like they are in the same room together, and even like in the movie, like it is highly like I don't know, as a queer person like watching it, I was like, there's a very palpable will they won't they energy to it. And I think her being the foil to Eleanor is like part of that queer reading. It's part of that like, and it does add to, I mean, I'm not going to spoil it either, but it does add to the ending as well, and it does like bring up some interesting questions there.
One of my favorite things about this movie, it is black and white for those who do watch it. And back when Ted
they've
Turner,
actually, somebody colored it. So if you,
well, that was just,
on
well, when Ted
YouTube.
Turner was going to do the colorization on it, Robert Wise was one of the first ones to come out saying this can never be colorized.
Well, unfortunately, somebody did color it.
Yeah, yeah. It wasn't released on DVD till the early 2000s, and I remember buying that, and then and it wasn't released on Blu-ray till 2013, and it did have a commentary track with Wise and Bloom and a few others, which was very cool. So
very cool. Okay, we're going to do a brief little stop on our journey here, our sojourn, to a place that makes me sad because the cast of this movie is amazing.
yes, and
this movie,
now the road to this movie is kind of interesting because 1990 it was supposed to be Stephen King, was Steven Spielberg, and they were going to make a remake of The Haunting, and they couldn't get it off the ground, and they actually turned it a little bit. Spielberg finally gave it back to Stephen King completely, and that became Rose Red, which is nothing to do with, it has very little to do with The Haunting anymore. But because of that, Wes Craven decides to do the 1999
Wes
movie.
Craven is not the one who directed this particular movie.
That's the problem. He drops out. And so this is how we get the other one.
Yeah, so Jan de Bont,
John de Bont. Yes.
Yes, de Bont, who is a director. He did movies like that we do love, like, I don't know, Speed,
Yep.
Twister, Lara Croft Tomb Raider.
Yep.
You know, there are
Action
several
guy.
movies this man has made that are amazing. And then there was this one. So let's go through the cast and then we'll go through the inevitable. This is also called The Haunting. Its release was in 1999. It stars the same cast of characters, but we have Liam Neeson, right?
Yep.
As the doctor, Dr. John Markway.
Markway, yeah.
Yeah,
which is also what they changed the original movie for. Montague became Markway for some reason.
Yes. So now it's Markway. Catherine Zeta-Jones is Theodora. Owen Wilson is Luke Sanderson. And Lily Taylor is Eleanor, which everybody calls her Nell. It has Virginia Madsen in it. Like, it has some really nice cast of characters in this.
And the mansion is amazing.
Yes.
It's actually Harlexton Manor, which is actually a boarding school in the UK, and it's pretty epic.
It is absolutely phenomenal. And then there's the script. So, Mark, what are your problems with this movie before I go into my problems with this movie?
Everything.
Yes. Okay. Those are the same problems I have with this
amazing.
movie.
The cast is amazing. The script is garbage. Everything is garbage. Jan de Bont should be directing action movies. They decided this was actually part of the reason Spielberg and King were having issues. King wanted to make it more horror and less action and gore, and Spielberg wanted more action and gore because that's what he was used to with Temple of Doom and Poltergeist and all that. So that's why they dropped the project back then. This went to Jan de Bont, who had done Speed and all these other movies. So he was like, action and gore, which is not The Haunting at all. So
No, it's not.
not The Haunting villain.
Just to give an idea, this has a 17% on Rotten Tomatoes. It doesn't even hit above 20%. And with this cast, you would think by default they would have been given that. But the inherent problem is that it is made to be like a slasher film, and it's not a slasher film. They take the presence of the house and mutate it into something different than it was.
Yeah, I think this one, it's Dr. Marrow instead of Montague, I think, in this one.
No, I just looked up the name. I'm
Okay,
on the
I thought it was
Googles.
Dr. Marrow. I'm sorry.
It's not Dr. Marrow. It's Dr. Oh my goodness. Now you've made me
Was it
messed up.
Montague? Okay, sorry.
It is Markway.
Markway.
Dr. Markway. listen, do not doubt me in the Googling on
All
IMDb.
right, all right.
But obviously, travelers, you're welcome. This is one of those
I
couch.
watched it once and will never again. I wasted.
Yeah, so you can experience it, but it is not. If you read the book, it is not the book by any stretch of the imagination, and it will just make you mad and disappointed. Plus, you will see what we mean. Amazing, just brilliant cast of terrible using. And this is where you see where the difference between a cast and a script and a director. And the director at Speed is one of my favorite fun movies to watch and things like that. Ugh, this person should not have made this movie. Anyway, that's all we're going to give to this movie. And we're going to go on to my favorite.
All right.
Which is named The Haunting of Hill House. Which, by the way, did get a 93% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh, there you go.
So anyway.
Yeah.
Do you want me to start this off?
Yes, please do. Please do.
Okay. So first of all, another just thoroughly amazing cast.
Yes.
But similarly, basically it's some siblings. And they grew up in what would go on to become one of the most famous haunted houses in the country. Now they have to go back to this house that they grew up in. And some of the ghosts still lurk in their minds, in the shadows. So what I will say about this is, one, I agree with Mark 10,000%. It is not the same story as the book, right?
Not an adaptation at all.
No, but here's the buts that I'm going to play, right?
There's enough Easter eggs.
Oh my God, the Easter eggs are unbelievable in this. Unbelievable in this. You have to watch this multiple times because things you will see that you don't, you're like, did I see that? Did I not? And how they, what is the similarities to me? These are the similarities. Eleanor, which is played by Victoria Pedretti. I hope I said her name correctly.
Yeah.
Is that same kind of emotionally hot, not like sexy, but emotionally on fire person who is going through a lot. And there are many times throughout this, you don't know if what she's experiencing is what is actually occurring or it's something she's because of her, right? So they did a tremendously good job, I think, with that.
Right.
You know, the other thing is, I feel the person who wrote the script, and I should do them some justice by giving the writers of this, right, is they did such a tremendous job of weaving the story similar to the way Shirley Jackson wove her story.
Right. Oh no, they got the beats down perfectly. Yes. And
well, so
controlled.
That's something that you can absolutely like kind of go to and say they did a tremendously good job. It is not the same story. And I'll be honest with you, the more I think about the way that story goes and how much you would have to include to really, and I don't know if somebody would be able to watch The Haunting of Hill House that way.
I don't know. Yeah, it's
hard because it's one of those books that is brilliant and the journey it takes you on is just phenomenal, right?
Right.
But it is a slow burn.
Yeah, and it's some of the episodes are some of the best television episodes I've ever seen.
Oh my gosh, yes.
The some were just off the chart, and
I'm just going to say the bent-necked lady
award. It won the Fangoria award that year, Bram Stoker award. The episode that I think of the most, the Bent Neck Lady, won Superior Achievement in a Screenplay for Bram Stoker Award that year.
The bent neck lady.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that episode is
Oh my God.
one of the most perfect episodes of television for horror ever.
Yes.
My problem with this is they couldn't stick the landing. The last episode throws off the rest of the series, in my opinion. So I was
can
very
see
disappointed
that.
with the last episode.
I can see that absolutely.
Yeah.
You know,
And to me, ending is everything. And to be fair, some people don't like the endings of the book or even the 1963 movie. They think they kind of, I'm not going into spoilers, but some people say, oh, Shirley Jackson just got bored and stopped the book, which, I always say that about Stephen King books. I think Stephen King gets bored and just ends his books in 2 pages because he's done everything else he can. Now, one of the things about the Hill House stories that get to me is the background of the haunting, right? It's the history of the house. And that's something we always talk about with our travels and our hauntings, is we love the backstory. And Shirley Jackson came up with this amazing backstory of the house, right? Where Hugh Crane builds the house for his young wife and she dies almost as the house is open. And then he and his daughter, he forces his daughters to live there. And there's tragedy after tragedy, generation after generation. And I love it. That's the building of a haunt. And that's what we, as a ghost investigator, that's what you look for. That as a paranormal fan, this is exactly what you want. And she does this so well in that book that people thought this was a real place. People went around looking for it.
Yeah, and they do a similar thing in the last series. They did a similar thing. But you bring up a really good point, which is when it's interesting, as I talked to a film producer at one point in time about scripts, and one of the things he told me, which I thought was brilliant, was he said a problem with a lot of the scripts in Hollywood is the people that are writing them are script writers and not like prose writers. So they don't do a lot of world building necessarily. Now, that doesn't mean all of the world building comes through in the script, right?
No, yeah.
But they don't do enough world building to which the world and the things about it have character to it. And that house, that setting she built was a character. That house was a character in that book.
She actually sketched out floor plans. And so when she was writing, she could look at it. And I love that those are part of the Jackson collection. So
where can you see the Jackson collection?
It's on tour right now. I will have to ask our wonderful producer to do some Googling for me while we're talking and see if they can find out where the Shirley Jackson Papers collection is currently. Because it was at the college where they do the Jackson Awards, which is also escaping my head right now. I love that the award is a rock, because that's just what that is definitely, the Shirleys, they're just a big rock. And
which
that's what they do.
Be. And it's interesting. Do we know where the set was for? Because I didn't look at this far. The set was for the Haunting of Hill House filming. That was
all on site. That was all studio. There was no Hill House for that.
Wow.
That was all well-built sets and everything. Same with the original movie. It was all soundstage. And that's one of the things that Shirley Jackson put in the book, is that the corners are off. There are no right angles anywhere in the house. And this is the kind of thing that gets picked up. The great book House of Leaves uses this to its advantage. Another one of those great masterpieces of scary books and all that. And her papers are in the Library of Congress. So
cool.
Thank you so much for that. MIT has some of those as well, has some of her records as well. So
that's pretty badass.
I'm glad you were able to find it, because I could not.
Yeah. I pulled up my notes. I was able to dig. So
Smart.
her book, and if you haven't read Shirley Jackson, oh my gosh, please read The Haunting. Please read The Lottery. That was probably her famous short story that made her the name. And she's done a lot of amazing stuff. And again, they do an award for her every year called the Shirleys. Man, they're both just master classes in controlling your narrative, controlling the spookiness. And that's just all there is to it. That's all you really need to know. So
No, it's true, but it definitely is one of those things that we call psychological horror. And
Yep.
it's very different than showing something scary. Although I will say the TV show does a tremendous job, Easter eggs again, of what are you seeing? Like what's there besides the entire setting is just terrifying, right? I don't want to even discuss the basement. That's going down the ladder. I'm still creeped out. I just creeped myself out. Nope. There's so much. I would pull up to this house and it would be a hard nope. Both of these houses.
That will be, like I said, the one best thing about 99 is the Harlexton Manor, which is, the house itself was beautiful. And what was funny is we were at Small Town Monsters Fest up in Canton, Ohio, of all the places. And Carrie and we were after the festival, we were looking for a place to eat, and we go to this place called Mulligan's, which is a chain pub restaurant, and they always decorate with stuff from UK and things like that all over their walls, just because it's supposed to be an Irish pub, so they throw stuff on the walls, and they want it to look like you're walking into an old British pub. And this is in a strip mall, right? So it's not like you're really walking into a Victorian pub or anything, unlike some places down here in Florida where they moved them brick by brick. But this one, the lights were just really cool in this place, and I kept getting this weird feeling about them. And as we're leaving, I see a sign. The lighting of this place was from Harlexton Manor. The guy had bought it from a Hollywood store. They were lights that were put into Harlexton Manor for The Haunting in 1999. And now they're in this pub in Canton, Ohio.
Of course they are.
It's like I asked him, do you have any ghosts? Because Harlexton Manor apparently has some real ghosts. And of course it does. But that pub, they said no. So
they said no. They denied
no.
you.
They denied ghosts. Although that place was also filmed a couple other places. One of the other scenes was Belvoir Castle. And that was one where Spielberg had stayed, and that was where Spielberg had a ghostly encounter of his own, supposedly. So the fact that they filmed that there. Yeah.
I like it.
Interesting.
Very interesting.
I know for like my English major perspective, I just really enjoyed like this concept of the reliability of the narrator. I feel like that was really what like set me down the path of loving psychological horror, because you do not know what to believe. And that is the scariest thing. That is way scarier than showing me any monster, showing me any level of gore.
Agreed.
It is 100%. Can I trust what I am seeing with my own eyes? Can I trust what this person is telling me and hearing it with my own ears? Like, what is this experience really? Like, is she just crazy? Are these things really happening? Like, I don't know. I really love the questioning that you do within the story, because you're not even sure as a member of the audience. And that is way more interesting to me than any slasher film.
I agree. And we've talked about this before on the podcast. So I'll talk about it again. I think sometimes the psychological parts, like there's parts that are, really disgusting. And we, at some point, I'm sure we'll cover the truth behind Silence of the Lambs, right? And everything like that. But, when that whole thing, you don't see Hannibal Lecter's situation until way later on in that movie. And if you watch the Hannibal TV show, which, oh my God, I'm madly in love with that TV show, and I wish it hadn't ended. But again, the most terrifying character is one that's not terrifying looking at all.
And now what's funny about all of this is the name. The Haunting of Hill House was, the original novel. Now, 1959, William Castle, probably one of the great classic producers of low budget horror, decides to bank in on the success of the book and make his knockoff, and he calls it The House on Haunted Hill.
Oh,
and gets Vincent Price, classic. One of my favorite things, if you spend the night in the house, you'll get $10,000, if you survive.
Oh, I remember the riff tracks of that. We went to see that in the theater.
Now, what was cool about that movie was William Castle did the thing called Emergo. This was filmed in Emergo. It was emerging technology, 1959. What it was he had a plastic skeleton that in some theaters would fly over the audience in a specific scene when a skeleton comes out of the thing. And, it was all promotion, but it made the movie a hit. And this other director sees the success of this, and goes, I can make a horror movie. And that, that could really kind of follow this same formula. And that is this guy named Alfred Hitchcock, who decides to make Psycho after watching The House on Haunted Hill. But that was also why when they made the movie, The Haunting of Hill House, they decided, it's going to be confused with House on Haunted Hill, which was already a ripoff of, Haunting of Hill House. So that's why they called it The Haunting. So when they're remaking it in 1999, they're like, okay, we can call this one The Haunting of Hill House. Guess what? A remake of The House on Haunted Hill comes out in 1999.
The 1999 version of that was pretty good. It
was actually really good. They were both really good. I liked House on Haunted Hill. They were both really good. Even it's Vincent Price being classic, that
reminds me of there's online a timeline of how it's like how 9/11 started a chain of events that caused 50 Shades of Grey to come out. It's like, so 9/11, Gerard Way was inspired, and he wrote the very formative album Black Parade, My Chemical Romance. Love it. Fantastic album. That album is what inspired Stephenie Meyer to write Twilight. And then 50 Shades of Grey is a Twilight fan fiction that got rebranded to become a book.
Yep.
And it's always just stuff like that where you're like, I don't know. It's interesting how you can back things up to its origin. I know that's completely unrelated, but
no, it's that one of my favorite bits of history. Oh no, I'm not going to go off on this tangent. We'll have to do that.
Oh no, I was going to say we're nearing the end.
Thank you for stopping myself there.
The Muncy tangent corner.
My little Jiminy Cricket on my shoulder, my history buff said, no. You're not going to talk about why the space station is related to Rome.
Okay, we're stopping there. This is what we're going to recommend. Travelers. Of course, there are some sites we've talked about you can go see, but we heavily suggest you find your favorite place to read or listen to audiobooks and grab The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. And if you would like to watch any of the versions, don't watch the 1999 one, you'll be sad. But we definitely recommend watching the 1963 version and the 2018 on Netflix, The Haunting of Hill House. That mainly because it has one of our favorite stars from the E.T. movie in it. So I'm just throwing that out there, okay? It just links to aliens. We like linking every episode to aliens somehow.
That's true. We do. And like I said, if you can watch the Bent Neck Lady episode at least, you'll be.
Oh yeah.
And just remember, it's not the book. But I would recommend reading it in a haunted location. Find yourself a nice little haunted house to read your haunted house book.
What kind of a recommendation is that?
That's
Yeah,
that's an
not a-
exception recommendation. That's an exceptional recommendation. Let me rephrase that. So
Yeah, did
Yeah.
you just say in Inception?
He
I
did.
did. I wasn't quite sure where I was going there. So
I don't know where you're going, but I think we ought to go because
I think we should, gang.
yeah.
Now I will say one little side story from all this that I have to do. When my early storytelling days were occurring, we were doing the Dunellen Renaissance Festival, which lasted, I think, about 3 years. And it was the first one. And we were all staying the night in the house of the people throwing the event. And we're in their house and I'm entertaining everybody by telling ghost stories. And I decide to retell The Haunting of Hill House as a ghost story to the crowd that are all sleeping across this living room floor. And all the girls were in one room. And I was just telling this to the guys out in the other room. But what we didn't know was the girls were listening in from the room next to us. And as I get to the part where the pounding on the walls occurs, one of the girls in the other room got so scared she actually did pound on the wall to get us to stop. And I couldn't have timed it better if my life depended on it. And one of my friends, who was a Renaissance Festival guy, who was a big Viking named Thorgren, he somehow leapt over every single person in the living room, did a roll, and came back up and grabbed his Thor's hammer off the wall, ready to fight whatever had pounded on the wall above him. And it was the ladies who ran the event telling us all to shut up and go to bed. We were scaring everybody to get us to go to sleep.
Oh, a sight to behold. A sight to
Yes,
behold.
So a good friend of ours who was at that event, David Baker, we wish you speedy recovery, my friend. I heard you're in the hospital. So that's one of the reasons we did this episode was I knew you fondly remember that night. So
Very cool. Well, Mark,
well,
out of here.
Yep. Again, gang, like, share, subscribe. We've got a lot more coming up. We will. What is your favorite horror movie? What is your favorite horror book that you'd like us to discuss? And we've got some coming up that I think you guys are going to enjoy. And like, share, subscribe, tell your friends, all that fun stuff. Vote for us at paranormalitymag.com. We'd like to climb that top 10 list of paranormal podcasts. And with that, we will say Hill House has stood for 90 years and might stand for 90 more. But quiet stands steadily against the walls of Hill House. And whatever walks there, walks alone. We'll see you on the other side.